Have you ever noticed that your priorities start to shift as you get older? The things that once felt essential, like maintaining a large circle of friends, may not hold the same importance anymore. And here's the truth: you don't actually need friends after 70. That might sound surprising at first, but when you take a closer look, you'll see why. Embracing independence and focusing on your own well-being can be one of the best decisions you'll ever make. In this video, we're going to explore 6 reasons why friendships aren't as necessary in your later years as they once were. We'll uncover how your mindset, personal freedom, and even your health can improve when you stop worrying about maintaining friendships that no longer serve you. This isn't about loneliness, it's about living life on your own terms, free from the unnecessary expectations and obligations that can come with social ties. Stay tuned until the end, because you may find that letting go of the pressure to maintain friendships isn't just liberating, it might just change the way you see yourself and your later years for the better. Now, let's get started. Reason 1. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. One of the biggest reasons you don't need friends after 70 is that you've already lived through the phase of life where social validation mattered. Think back to your younger years. How often did friendships revolve around proving yourself, fitting in, or keeping up appearances? Whether it was impressing colleagues, maintaining social circles, or making sure you were included in gatherings, there was always an underlying pressure to be seen and accepted. But now, you're at a stage in life where none of that is necessary. You've already built your legacy, and the opinions of others don't hold the same weight they once did. At this age, you've seen enough to understand that true fulfillment doesn't come from external approval, it comes from within. There's no longer a need to chase friendships for status, reputation, or social standing. You are who you are, and you don't need anyone else's validation to confirm it. Many younger people spend their time worrying about how they're perceived, whether they're liked, admired, or respected. But by the time you've reached your later years, you realize that none of that defines your worth. You define your own value, and you don't need a group of people around you to reinforce it. Think about someone like Harold, a man in his early 70s who spent most of his life climbing the corporate ladder. He was always surrounded by people. Colleagues, acquaintances, so-called friends, but most of those relationships were built on convenience rather than genuine connection. The moment he retired, those friendships faded. At first, he felt the need to reach out, to keep those ties alive, but then he had a realization. Why should he put effort into friendships that only existed because of work? Why chase relationships that were never truly meaningful to begin with? Instead of trying to hold on to friendships out of habit, Harold shifted his focus inward. He started spending more time on personal hobbies, rediscovered old interests, and most importantly, stopped caring about impressing others. He found that without the pressure of maintaining friendships, he actually felt freer. No more forced small talk, no more social obligations, no more worrying about whether people liked him or not. He was simply living for himself. And for the first time in a long time, that felt good. And that's the key. When you no longer seek validation from others, you start to realize how much energy was wasted on friendships that didn't add real value to your life. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone anymore. You don't need to keep up with anyone else's expectations. The only person you need to answer to is yourself. Reason 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As you get older, something shifts. Peace starts to feel far more valuable than socializing. In your younger years, being around people might have felt like a necessity. The noise, the gatherings, the conversations, it all felt like part of a life well lived. But as time goes on, you start to appreciate something even more: quiet. And not just any quiet, but the kind that allows you to truly be at ease, free from unnecessary drama, obligations, and social fatigue. Many friendships, even the good ones, come with a certain level of responsibility. There are phone calls to return, invitations to accept, and unspoken expectations to maintain contact. It's not that friendships are bad, It's just that at a certain point they can start to feel like more effort than they're worth. The truth is, you don't have to spend your time trying to keep up with others. You don't have to feel obligated to be available just because someone expects you to be. You've reached a stage in life where your time is your own, and you get to decide how to spend it. Take Margaret, for example. She's 74 and used to have a large circle of friends. Lunches, group calls, holiday gatherings, her calendar was always full. But as the years passed, she noticed that many of these social interactions felt draining rather than fulfilling. The conversations started feeling repetitive, the same stories being told over and over. Some friends only called to complain. Others seemed more interested in gossip than meaningful discussions. The joy of companionship had slowly turned into a routine she no longer enjoyed. One day, Margaret decided to step back. She stopped feeling guilty for saying no to invitations she wasn't excited about. She let go of the pressure to respond to every call or text immediately. Instead, she started embracing the quiet. She found that the time she once spent managing friendships was now hers to use however she pleased. She took longer walks, spent time in nature, read books she had been meaning to get to for years. Most importantly, she realized that solitude wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. And that's the beauty of this stage in life. You're no longer obligated to fill your days with constant activity or conversation just to feel connected. You get to enjoy your own company without the need for constant validation from others. You get to choose peace over pressure, calm over chaos. So if you've ever felt guilty for pulling back from social obligations, remind yourself of this. You're not withdrawing from life, you're embracing a new kind of fulfillment, the kind that comes from within, the kind that doesn't rely on anyone else. And that kind of peace, it's something that only gets better with age. If you're still tuned into this video and enjoying these thoughts, drop a number 2 in the comments to let me know you're with me. Haven't subscribed yet? I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you won't miss a single update. Alright, let's keep going. Reason 3. Fewer friends, fewer letdowns. Teaches you, often the hard way, that not every friend is a keeper. You've seen it, people who fade when you need them most, who take more than they give, who drift into silence without a word. By 70, those scars add up, little nicks on your heart from promises unspoken or broken. Maybe it was the friend who forgot your birthday after decades, or the one who vanished when grief knocked on your door. And here's the silver lining. Fewer friendships mean fewer chances to get hurt. It's not cynical, it's practical. A tender way to shield the peace you fought so hard to claim after all these years. Friendships come with unspoken deals. You check in, they do too. You show up, they reciprocate. But when that balance tips, it stings like a paper cut you didn't see coming. You call, they don't pick up. You care, they forget to ask how you're holding up. Why carry that weight when you don't have to? It's like lugging an old suitcase full of someone else's stuff, exhausting and pointless. I felt it myself, waiting for a reply that never came, wondering if I'd misread the bond. Over time, you learn it's not your failure, it's just life shifting. Letting go isn't cold, it's choosing to save your energy for what truly warms your soul, not what dims it. Take William, 78, a man who'd seen decades of bonds come and go like seasons. Some friends stuck around steady as oak trees, but others, people he'd known forever, got too busy or too distant, their calls growing faint as a whisper in the wind. It hurt at first, a quiet ache that kept him up at night. He wondered what he'd done wrong, replaying old conversations in his head. Then it clicked. He hadn't changed. He'd just stopped settling for one-sided effort that left him empty. He wasn't separating it from you, so he loosened his grip, let those ties fade like a sunset, and turned inward. He nurtured the handful of relationships that felt mutual, his daughter's laughter, a lifelong buddy's fishing tales, and let the rest drift away. The result? Less frustration, more clarity, like fog lifting off a lake at dawn. This is another of those life lessons from the elderly. Quality beats quantity every time. You don't need a Rolodex full of names to feel whole. just a few souls who get you, or even just yourself, standing tall in your own light. It's about shedding the baggage of expectation, those heavy shoulds that pile up over years, and walking lighter through your days. Think of it like pruning a garden. Cutting back the wilted bits lets the strong blooms thrive. You've earned that simplicity, that right to surround yourself with what lifts you up, not what pulls you down. After all, at this stage, isn't it time to let your heart rest easy with the ones, or the one, who truly matter? Reason 4. Time is your most precious treasure. Here's a truth that sneaks up on you with age. Time isn't just ticking, it's gold, shimmering with a weight you didn't feel before. In your younger years, it felt endless. Hours to burn with friends, weekends to fill with chatter, days stretching out like a lazy river with no end in sight. But after 70, every moment glimmers with value. A fleeting gift you start guarding like the treasure it is. You notice it in the slow rise of the sun, the way a breeze carries a memory. Friendships, even the good ones, take time. Calls to make, plans to keep, energy to spend that sometimes leaves you running on fumes. And while some are worth every second, others, they're just habits you've outgrown, like a favorite sweater that's lost its fit over the years. Think of Richard in his early 80s, a guy who used to thrive on dinner parties and long phone catch-ups that stretched into the night. He was the heartbeat of every room, dishing out stories and refilling glasses. But as the years piled on, those gatherings lost their shine, dimming like a candle burned too long. The small talk felt like a chore, the complaints a broken record spinning the same old tune. One day, stuck at a lunch he didn't even want to attend, surrounded by voices that grated instead of lifted, he had an epiphany. This wasn't how he wanted to spend his time. So he flipped the script. He said no when he meant it, traded gossip for quiet walks under rustling trees, swapped social duties for things that sparked joy, reading novels that whisked him away, learning bird calls, just breathing in the day with a gratitude he hadn't known he'd needed. What happened next was magic. He didn't miss the chaos, not the clatter of plates or the forced laughter. He felt fuller, richer, like a well finally filled after years of pouring out, because his time was his own. That's the human condition laid bare, realizing what matters and letting the rest fall away, soft as leaves in autumn. How would you spend your hours if everyone was yours to choose, no strings attached? At this stage, you don't owe your time to anyone. Not the past, not guilt, not expectation. You've earned the right to savor it, to pour it into what lights you up, whether it's tending a garden, losing yourself in music, or simply sitting with the stillness. That's a freedom worth claiming, a quiet rebellion against a world that says you should keep running when you've already crossed the finish line. If you're still tuned into this video and enjoying these thoughts, drop a number 4 in the comments to let me know you're with me. Haven't subscribed yet? I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you won't miss a single update. Alright, let's keep going. Reason 5. The best companion is you. Now, let's flip a big myth on its head. You don't need a crowd to be happy, despite what the world drills into us. We grow up hearing that happiness is a group project. Friends, parties, constant chatter swirling like a whirlwind you're supposed to ride. But here's a secret life lesson from the elderly, whispered from years of living. The truest companionship comes from within, a quiet flame that's been there all along. By 70, you've spent decades figuring yourself out, your quirks, your dreams, your quiet strengths that steadied you through storms. You're not just someone's friend, parent, or coworker anymore. You're you, whole and weathered, and that's enough. It's like finding an old photo of yourself and realizing you've been a good friend to that person all this time. Eleanor, 76, learned this the hard way, her story a mirror to so many of ours. She used to pack her days with people, thinking that's what kept her alive. Plans stacking up like dishes, check-ins with friends, endless activity buzzing around her like bees. But it left her tired, not fulfilled, a candle burning at both ends. She was bending herself to fit conversations that felt like tight shoes, dodging the guilt of saying no to yet another outing. Then she stopped running, tired of the chase. She started treating herself like a friend. Long walks alone with the crunch of leaves underfoot, coffee with a book that spoke to her soul, evenings lost in her own thoughts under a quilt of stars. To her surprise, she didn't crumble into dust. She blossomed, lighter, happier, at peace, like a flower finally turning toward the sun after too long in shadow. It's the beauty of this stage. You don't need others to fill your silence with noise or validation. You become your own joy, your own wisdom, a wellspring that's deeper than you knew. And when you're good with you, truly at home in your own skin, the right people, those effortless, no-pressure souls find you naturally, drawn to your quiet glow. It's not loneliness, it's power, a strength that hums through your veins. You've got a lifetime of stories in your bones, triumphs, tears, laughter, and they're worth hearing, worth savoring over a cup of tea. Why lean on anyone else when you've got yourself, a companion who's weathered every season with grace? It's like discovering a hidden room in a house you've lived in forever. Suddenly, there's space to breathe, to be, to love who you've become. Reason 6. Letting go unlocks a richer life. Here's the big one, the heart of it all. Letting go sets you free, like a bird slipping a cage it didn't know it could leave. After 70, you can drop the weight of friendships that don't spark joy, those dim embers that once glowed, along with the idea that your worth hinges on a busy social life packed with noise and nods. You can shed the fear that alone means empty, a hollow echo in your chest. When you release those chains, heavy with years of shoulds, something incredible happens. A simpler, fuller life swings open like a door you didn't know was there, sunlight spilling through to warm the floors of your soul. James, in his late 70s, used to think staying social was the key to aging well, a lifeline to youth he gripped tight. He clung to old friends, even when the talks grew stale. Rehashed tales as dry as autumn leaves, and the meetups felt like chores he'd rather skip. But one day, drained by yet another forced catch-up, his coffee cold and his spirit colder, he asked himself, "Why am I still here?" He stopped chasing what didn't fit, like a coat too tight at the shoulders, and started chasing what did. Time outdoors with the wind in his hair, a focus on his health that felt like a gift, the thrill of learning guitar chords that sang to him. The result? He didn't just survive, he thrived, lighter, happier, free as a kite cut loose to soar. This is the human condition at its peak, choosing what aligns with your soul, not what society scribbled on your script. Letting go doesn't close you off like a locked gate. It clears the clutter, the dusty expectations and faded obligations, so you can see the good stuff. A quiet morning with birdsong as your alarm, a hobby that hums in your hands like a living thing, the peace of your own thoughts, unfolding like a letter to yourself. Life lessons from the elderly tell us this loud and clear: fulfillment isn't about who's around you, a crowd to prop you up. It's about how true you are to yourself, a compass pointing home. What could you let go of today to feel that freedom tomorrow, to step lighter into your own dawn? If you're still tuned into this video and enjoying these thoughts, drop a number 6 in the comments to let me know you're with me. Haven't subscribed yet? I'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you won't miss a single update. All right, let's keep going. Final thoughts. So there we are, 6 reasons why, after 70, you don't need friends the way you once thought, laid out like stepping stones across a river of years. This isn't about turning away from the world, closing curtains on life's stage. It's about turning toward yourself, opening a window to your own heart. It's freedom from obligation, those old ropes that tugged you along, peace over pressure, a life shaped by what matters most to you, not what others penciled in. These life lessons from the elderly aren't just stories whispered over tea, they're maps, guiding us through the wild, beautiful terrain of existence where every wrinkle tells a tale. You've seen how shedding unneeded ties can bring joy that dances in your chest, time that unfolds like a gift, and a quiet richness you might have missed amid the clamor. What hit home for you today, stirring something deep inside? Was it Harold's leap to freedom, unshackled from a past that no longer fit? Or Margaret's quiet rebellion, her soft no echoing like a bell? Maybe it was James's bold rewrite of his days, painting them with colors he chose. Perhaps you're already feeling that tug to let go of guilt, of noise, to savor your own company under a blanket of stars, to prioritize you after years of giving. Drop a comment below. Tell me one thing you're taking from this, a seed to plant, and how you'll weave it into your life, maybe with a walk or a moment of stillness. Your voice matters, a thread in this tapestry. It keeps this conversation alive, connecting us across miles and screens. If this resonated, lighting a spark in your soul, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss what's next on this journey together. Share it with someone who might need to hear this too, a friend, a sibling, someone teetering on the edge of their own freedom. Thanks for being here, for walking this path with me through laughter and lessons, for trusting me with your time. Until next time, take a deep breath, feel the air fill your lungs, look around at the life you've built and ask yourself, what's one small step toward freedom I can take today? One gentle nudge toward me. See you soon with more to share and more paths to explore.